So first
What is the class? Who am I talking to? Why are you people here? What are you gathered about? There's a film festival? What's happening? Who are we?
Well, there is a Judd Apatow retrospective here at the Royal CINEMATEK of Belgium, and I think that's the first Apatow retrospective in Belgium. How does
Is this the full turnout? This is the whole turnout for the retrospective? Have you guys already shown movies, or this is the end or the beginning?
It's the middle. Says Céline right here,
yes.
who organizes the retrospective.
How are the screenings going?
It's going fine. It's doing well. Yeah, and then we screen as well some films that you like, favorite films and influences. Beautiful program. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. So you guys, you showed my favorite film. So you just showed The Revenant.
So we show your films and films that you produced.
Yes.
All 35 millimeters print.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. So you. Okay.
Well, I will ask you my first question. To prepare this, I was interviewed myself by a journalist, a local journalist, and his first question was, do you think Judd Apatow is the king of comedy? And I said, I think so. And I would like to have your opinion about this. Do you think you are still the king of comedy?
You know what's funny is anytime anyone is doing well in comedy, every article says they are the king of comedy. It's a very funny, overused phrase. I'm just happy I'm still working. I don't need any title. As long as they let me make the next thing, I'm happy. So it's not about being the king, it's about not being kicked out of the kingdom. So I'm happy that I'm still working. But who is the king of comedy? Like if I was to say who it really was, I guess it's always Mel Brooks, right? It's always Mel Brooks. He's still working.
Is he?
He is. He's rewriting a Young Frankenstein for the stage as we speak.
Okay, cool. Mel Brooks is your king of comedy then?
I think so.
Okay.
For all of us.
I think you are our king of comedy, but that's fine if you disagree.
I do violently. I violently disagree with this.
Well, all the artists you've been working with for the last 15 years, I mean, most of them became very successful and famous. People like Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, Jason Segel, Paul Feig, etc., etc. And at some point, they started to work on their own, to produce their own movie. So I guess you must be very proud of that. But I'm wondering also if you feel some kind of sadness to see those people that are like your children kind of go away. How do you feel with the previous generation having their own companies now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely mixed emotions about it because I had so much fun with everybody. And so just based on that, it's very sad because everybody, has their own ideas and dreams and stories they want to tell, and they all want to make money and start companies. And so, on one level, it's like a band that breaks up, or a band that just tours every couple of years. And it was really an adjustment, for me to understand, like, oh, I guess everyone's just going to drift off, and I have to keep replenishing who I work with. So we're finishing up Girls with Lena Dunham. We just finished shooting the series, which will be airing the beginning of next year, and then I have the show Love on Netflix, and then I have a new show with this comedian Pete Holmes that'll be on HBO next year. So I have Kumail Nanjiani from the show Silicon Valley. We have a movie that he wrote with his wife called The Big Sick. So it does force me to meet new people. But they're doing amazing work. I loved Sausage Party.
I love it too. Yeah.
I thought it was very impressive, and so sometimes I see something that they've made, like This Is the End or something, and I just think, oh, they don't need me at all. There's nothing left to ask me about. But hopefully we'll find other ways to work together.
Okay. And about this passion you have for discovering new people, could you be a little bit more specific and why do you like so much to find new talents and promote them? Where does it come from?
Well, as a kid, I just loved comedy and comedians and actors and actresses, and I would follow what they were doing and follow their career. So I didn't really follow sports. So in a way, it's like if you liked an athlete and you follow their career, I would do that with comedy people. And what's fun for me is trying to figure out how someone would work on screen in television or in a movie. Like that moment when Amy Schumer doesn't really know how she would be as the lead of a movie, cracking the code of that is what's really interesting. It's less interesting to do someone's 20th movie, although that could be really interesting as well. But it's really fun to say, what is it like when Jonah Hill is the lead of a movie? And would anyone want to see that? What is it about him that we're interested in? And so that's, the most challenging, interesting part for me.
You just gave me an idea, because is there one actor or actress that is already famous and you feel like his or her code hasn't been cracked yet?
Yes.
And you would love to crack this person's code?
Oh, crack the code of somebody who makes a lot of
money. Yeah, like Tom Cruise, for example.
Who was that?
Like Tom Cruise, for example.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting too. We worked with Eric Bana on Funny People, and I hadn't seen him play a part like that in a movie, so it was really fun to try to figure out how to do, that type of comedy with him, because I'm such a big fan of his. So that happens every once in a while.
But you don't have like a dream. Like I would dream to see Nicolas Cage working for you.
Yeah.
If I could choose.
Yeah, well, I'm a hoarder. You know what that is? I'm like a hoarder of things, and I can't stop collecting things. And there's those people with like stacks of newspapers that fill up their entire house. Like I feel like that, and so there's I'd like to work with everyone. I mean, I'd love to work with Steve Martin and Bill Murray and Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, and but then my brain just melts and I take a nap and don't do anything. That's the definition of an obsessive compulsive personality, is you think so much that your mind melts and you do nothing. So that's where I am right now.
You recently went back on stage, where you actually started your career as a stand-up comedian, but then you stopped. We know the story. And a couple of years ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago, you went back. Why did you do it, and how does it feel to be back on stage? What is the necessity for you to express yourself this way by doing stand-up?
Well, when you make a movie, it takes years and years. I was just talking to Mike Mills. Do you know the filmmaker? He did Beginners.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember I was reading drafts of this new movie that's coming out this year, and I figured, oh wow, it took him half a decade to make that movie. It's a long time with one idea, and you're by yourself for a long time. Then you shoot for just a couple of months, and then you're like alone for another year or so with an editor, and it's lonely. Where it's fun to get up every night on stage and talk to people and do stand-up, and some nights it goes well and sometimes it doesn't, but you feel more connected with people when you're telling jokes directly to them. And so I missed that part of it, and I was jealous of Schumer because she would just go on the road and seem to be having the greatest time. And I thought, I want to be closer to comedy. And so when we did Trainwreck, I said, you know what, I'm going to go on stage one night. I'm going to let you see what it was like when I used to do stand-up. And she watched from the back of the room. And she was so excited because she thought I was going to bomb, and it was going to be this like terrible bomb that she could mock me about. And then I had a kind of a pretty good set. And then she was so mad it went well, because it took away all the fun for her to watch me humiliated.
And then you kept doing this
and then I've been doing it for about 2.5 years, and next year I'm going to tape some sort of hour special of what I've been doing. But I have such high, expectations for myself. I mean, it's hard to ever think it's good enough to tape something, but I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll shoot it there.
In Brussels?
In your country. What do you think? Would that be a good thing? Is that the way to do it? Right?
I think people agree. Yeah.
I'll do it. Was Amy Schumer just there? Did she come to your country? And
Amy Schumer, did she come to... No, the film came, but... Oh, the film was not released.
Then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
For no apparent reason, I'm going to shoot it there. That'd be a good name for the special. For no apparent reason, live.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah. I feel like you need to work on different paces, different rhythms. Is it true, like producing, directing, going on stage, working, making a book, even making a documentary? Do you need to keep yourself busy?
Well, I guess so. I mean, I always, on one level, I do it because I like to do it, and it's creative and makes me feel like I serve some purpose on Earth. And then I also do it out of a neurotic need to just be in forward motion. I just like to be in the middle of something, and when I'm not, I get in my head and I get like neurotic and crazy. Like right now, I'm not writing a movie, and I feel a little crazy. And so I want to get a movie going, partially to make a movie, but partially to not feel crazy. It's nice to have a goal and something that you care about to, fill your head. Because when your head is empty, that's when the weird thoughts come. That's when all the bad stuff happens. So hopefully I'll think of something.
But that's when the weird stuff comes, that comedy comes also. That's part of the inspiration, right?
You have to sit in the quiet and see what bubbles up, But with the things that bubble up for me are generally kind of dark. So it's helpful for me to work with other people because then I can, add hopefully something kind of rich or deep to their ideas. But with left to my own devices, where my head goes is usually like a little darker. So it's fun to work on something like Anchorman because I can ask hard questions and talk about the relationships, but when I'm alone thinking of ideas, it's rarely as light as that.
So, despite success, you still are a worried man.
Well, you're always worried. I mean, in comedy, you never know if the next thing is going to work. So it's not like you ever feel comfortable because the next thing can always be so terrible. Previous success means nothing. If Pearl Jam does a concert, they know they can play Jeremy and it'll be a good concert.
Yeah.
There's not that much risk at the concert. But, as a filmmaker, you're always on the verge of massive worldwide humiliation. Which is the fun part, really.
So right now you have no idea what you're going to do next, what will be your next film.
Yeah, I really can't figure it out. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. I'm not sure. I keep thinking it'll occur to me, and then it just doesn't. So I've been doing a lot of television. So we just shot like 29 episodes of these 3 different TV shows, and that might be draining my brain. It's really fun doing television because you don't really have to have a happy ending. Everything can end awkwardly. It can be more realistic and strange like life. And so I feel like a lot of how I see life, it applies well to TV. But I do like hearing the laughs in a movie theater. But I like the open-endedness of the way stories are told on TV. Have you guys seen that show, Fleabag?
What?
Fleabag. It's a British show. That's a good show. You guys should find that. It's on Amazon. Okay. You guys have Amazon there?
Yeah.
Amazon Video. It's a good show.
I'm not sure we have Amazon Video here. No, we have Netflix, but...
You guys get Broadchurch?
Broadchurch, I know it, yeah.
One of the actresses on Broadchurch makes a show called Fleabag about... It's a very funny, edgy show about a woman.
Do you think, like many people, that TV, or let's say SVOD like Amazon or Netflix, is the new most creative field for comedy? Better than cinema, maybe?
Well, a weird thing happened with TV. TV is, and I can only speak to the United States, was terrible for a lot of the time. There'd be a few great shows, but most of it was terrible. And it was very lowest common denominator. And then now we have all these cable channels and streaming services, and the audience has demanded groundbreaking, experimental, thoughtful, smart television. And so now there's a profit motive for all these networks to ask people to make good TV. How weird is that? It's never happened before in the history of the world where they're like, I guess we need to make good stuff to make people happy. And they want people to take crazy chances and do all sorts of interesting things. So it is a great moment in TV. I don't know how long it'll last. It's also weird that there's so many shows that I think we forget them. We forget what happened. Like there's a TV show on Netflix called Narcos about Escobar. Has anybody seen that show?
Yeah.
Do you guys get that? Narcos? And but then there's one season and you watch it in like 2 days. And then a year later, the next season comes on, and you forgot everything that happened on the show. You're like, do I like that guy? Is he the good person or a bad person? Who am I rooting for? So there's a weirdness to TV not being on every week that I'm not sure how much I love that part about it.
So you binge a lot of TV?
I do binge. I also wonder, would we have binged decades ago? Would we have binged Dallas?
No.
Would we have binged Remington Steele or Mannix or, it's weird when you make TV for binging because it's different. With girls, it's on every week. So we assume people argue about it and talk about it for a week. But with our TV show Love, we assume that people are going to watch the entire series probably in 1 day, 2 max. So we have to make it like it's a 5-hour movie, which is what I always wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone always gives me a hard time if I make a movie that's 2 hours and 2 minutes, and then they'll watch 11 hours of Breaking Bad in a row.
Do you personally go to movie theaters, and you think there is still a meaning to make movies for crowds like this and for a group of people gathered in a room?
I like when people watch things together. There's plenty of reasons not to go to the movies. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's loud. I mean, as I get older, I get more irritated by people at the movie theater. And so I get why people want to be home alone. You can pee whenever you want, and you can pause. I feel like people just want to be able to pause at the movie theater. We're so used to controlling going to the bathroom. And if you could pause at the movie theater, everyone would go back to the movie theater. We just might have to pause 200 times if everyone peed at different times. But I think that's the main issue. But I don't know. I liked when the crowd is packed, when we would show 40-Year-Old Virgin and they would dance at the end and the place would really explode. You don't get that if everyone just sees it at home by themselves.
So it's still worth making movies for this reason, to have this pleasure.
Oh yeah, it's a great experience. I'm not sure why people would leave the house. I think everyone's trying to figure out what you have to do in a movie to get people to leave their homes and their video games and their Netflix to pay money to go to a movie. And so for most people, they think it's like spectacle. It's Batman and Superman fighting and busting up New York, and they go for special effects. And but hopefully people will still go en masse, to see movies, to have an emotional experience with other people.
I follow you on Twitter, and I've noticed that lately you've been very political and commenting a lot about Donald Trump. I guess that, as everybody, you are a bit worried, even though there is a small chance that...
A bit worried?
So my question is, do you think that in this troubled time, you would like to make more political movies and to do even political comedies like Anchorman is a political comedy, and would you like to do this kind of stuff instead of what you've been doing until now, which is not very political?
Well, most of my movies and TV have a very simple point of view, which is don't be an asshole. I mean, everything I'm doing is just trying to get people to, be interested in stories that are about love and about connection and about people learning to be kind to each other. And I don't know if that's a political act, but I think it's a necessary act that, that films make people want to be kinder to each other. And that's important. I tweet about Donald Trump because I couldn't be more scared. I mean, we just are in a weird moment where it really is as simple as, what if we saw Hitler coming and we're really clear, like, hey, that's the guy. Here he is. This is the dumb. It's not even out of evil with Hitler. It's out of stupidity. Just a guy who's going to stir up problems because he has no impulse control and can't pay attention and isn't a deep thinker and feels the need to win every confrontation and beat everyone down. He is the biggest idiot that the world has created in some time. And the fact that he's even part of the discussion is such an embarrassment, not just to America, but to just the human race. That he's even someone that anyone is considering for any job that would, involve taking care of other people, because he's pure narcissism. It's very scary, and so it feels important to just constantly say over and over again until the election, let's not do this. And so doing my part as much as I can, and I hope in a few weeks this nightmare will be over.
Yeah.
That being said, I am responsible for Donald Trump.
That's my
I'll tell you
question.
a story that I'm kind of responsible for this. I doubt this is true, but this is a thing that has been on the news a lot lately, which is about 5 or 6 years ago, Donald Trump was considering running for president, and when he first started saying that the president was born in Kenya, there was an event, the Correspondents' Dinner, where the president does stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And me and a friend wrote some jokes for the president about Donald Trump, where he really humiliated Donald Trump at this dinner. And it's been on the news a bunch of times that was the night he decided to run for president because he was so upset. So if the world ends, I am at least partially responsible.
I didn't know that.
I'm sorry, is what I'm trying to say. It was a good joke.
I remember the joke. It was great, yeah.
And also, that night that the president did those jokes was the same night that he killed bin Laden. So while he was killing bin Laden, he was doing stand-up comedy. And then I thought, wait a second, I was kind of part of that night. Now I feel like I killed bin Laden. And so hopefully Hillary Clinton will win and will be in much better hands.
But that's a very deep question actually, because you are a showman, and in his way Donald Trump is a showman as well, and he feeds himself constantly with jokes about him. He's like a troll. The more you talk about him, the bigger he gets.
Yeah.
So is there apart from you, is there a larger responsibility for making Trump big, because of at first he was just this kind of pop culture figure that everybody was making fun of, and still now people are touching his hair to check if they are true or not.
Well, I think that what happens, and I don't know if this is the case in your country or other countries, but someone was explaining this, I thought, very clearly, which is, if there's something that's on the front page of the newspaper. That's very exciting. They sell a lot of newspapers. And the next day, if something boring happens, they sell less newspapers. And then maybe the next day, there isn't anything exciting happening, so they manufacture something and make something kind of boring a little more exciting to sell newspapers. And that's the reason why Donald Trump exists. It's a result of the news becoming entertainment. And because people will watch the news in big numbers, the news paid too much attention to him and created him. And it's a very scary aspect of the American media, is that they are distorting the news and the importance of people and not talking about ideas as much as they should, because they are basically, entertainment. It is that the news has become entertainment in the United States.
Well, it's exactly the same in Europe.
Yeah. So we're all fucked.
Yeah. I have a last question for you, and then I will give the mic to the room. What advice would you give to someone who would like to become a comedy writer or a comedy maker?
I just was somebody that just absorbed as much as I could, read as much as I could. I tried to see everything, and the great thing about comedy and filmmaking is you learn by doing it, and it's much less expensive than it was when I was a kid. You couldn't really, I guess you could get a Super 8 camera and make movies, but now you can make a great movie on your phone. There's no excuse not to make movies if you want to be a filmmaker, because it's just not expensive. And it used to be somewhat impossible to do. It took a lot of effort and a lot of money. I don't know if you guys saw that movie Tangerine.
Yeah, we were discussing it an hour ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because it's coming to Brussels. Next week, the movie will be, in a few weeks?
Later.
In a few months, the movie will be shown here at the CINEMATEK.
Well,
yeah.
They made an amazing movie with an iPhone, and it can be done. The new iPhone, the camera is just crazy how good it is. You can change where the focus is after the fact. It's fascinating. So
do you have Apple shares?
What's that?
Do you have Apple shares?
Do I own shares in
Apple?
Apple?
Yeah.
I'm actually Steve Jobs' son. I love all the Apple products. I think that technology has ruined the world for sure, and that nobody talks to each other anymore, and my children have no ability to read a book. But other than that, it's been good. But I think that you have to just make things, and if you want to write jokes, you can sit and write jokes. If you want to do stand-up comedy, you can just go to an open mic and do it. But with films, you really can make things, and if you don't, you're just being lazy.
You used to say that comedy is a muscle, right? It's the same idea. It's a muscle you have to train and to just make by making it.
Yeah. Well, you don't even know why. You learn the more you care about it, you just unconsciously learn about it just by paying attention to it.
All right. Has anyone has a question? It can be in French, and we'll try to translate if you don't feel like speaking in English.
Oh, I could have spoken in French. You guys didn't ask.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. I just had a question first. I first knew you with the films that you directed, and then I discovered other films that you produced, and I just wondered. And there was kind of this Apatow touch, but I don't know how does it happen. That fact that your themes and that vibe that you put in your films just is dispersing in a lot of extents in all these movies, and how does it happen? Do you get the scripts and say put some sweet bitterness there and bromance here and things like that, or how does it happen actually?
Well, I don't usually buy scripts. We start with an idea for a movie, and then we outline for a long time, and then write drafts, and so it's a very collaborative process. And by the end of it, it is what it has become through a conversation with me. If you had all those conversations that you had with me about your film with David Lynch, it would be a different movie. It's just how I'm noting someone affects the film, and if I'm getting along well with the director or the writer, you can feel what I care about and what I value in the movies, but hopefully primarily you feel that director and that writer and what they want to do. I mean, I have to be careful that I don't ruin everyone's movies by making them how I would do it. So every situation is different. But my approach is just a humanistic approach. I'm interested in people. I'm interested in obstacles to happiness and love and the different ways that we get in our own way. And I take that from the people that I admire, like Cameron Crowe and James Brooks and Barry Levinson and Gary Shandling and people like that. And so I'm just doing my variation on, an approach that I value. Hal Ashby was one of my favorite filmmakers. So, in my head, I'm thinking, I wish once in my life I could make something as good as Being There or Harold and Maude. That's the bar. I was watching Almost Famous the other day, the Cameron Crowe movie, and that's another bar. So I'm not really doing anything that original, except maybe, we have our own sense of humor that sometimes is a little more edgy or frank in some way, honest, as part of it. But it reflects how we are funny with each other.
And another question: do you feel like you could do a pure drama film? Because I remember Funny People was kind of edgy on that thing, but or do you think you would be prepared to do something like that?
I'm not against making a drama. I feel like everything in life is funny. So, I love that movie, Her, the Spike Jonze movie, and nobody calls it a comedy. It's a drama, but it was really funny at times. I don't know if, Terms of Endearment was a comedy, I think. So, my favorite movies are honest dramas with a lot of comedy in them. I don't know if I would ever do something serious like The Reader or something like that. I don't know if I'm, the person you want to make the deadly serious movie. But who knows? I mean, you never know. It's hard. Sometimes I think it'd be nice to not have to think of any jokes. All this would be way easier with no jokes. That's why it's always funny that comedies never win Oscars and certain awards, because I feel like all movies are easier if there's no jokes. I could make any of those movies because they're not funny. That's the part I'm up all night trying to think about, is the funny part. But I don't know. We'll see. I haven't had any ideas that way so far.
Do you think The Martian is a comedy?
I'm going to tell you something honestly. I never saw The Martian. I didn't see it. I will see it. I didn't see it out of spite, even though we lost the Golden Globe for Best Comedy to The Martian. But the Golden Globes generally go to non-comedies, to dramas that have 8 jokes in them. I'm not really sure why, but that seems to be the case with the Golden Globes.
I'm just going to quickly explain to people, meanwhile, if somebody has another question, just so people know what it's about, because not everybody has seen the... Quelqu'un a une question?
Juste, voilà, les Golden Globes, en fait, il y a 2 ans, je crois, ont donné la meilleure comédie à The Martian, le film de Ridley Scott avec Matt Damon, et vraiment une comédie. Et donc, Judd Apatow avait fait un discours lors d'une autre cérémonie pour pour rappeler que c'était un peu étrange et que si la seule récompense qu'ils ont, qui est le Golden Globe de la meilleure comédie, est volée par un film qui n'est pas une comédie, alors vraiment tout est perdu, quoi.
Hi. So I have a question about your series Freaks and Geeks. So when it came out many years ago, it didn't work so well on television because I think the show was cancelled. And today it really became a kind of classic, I think. So do you think it was too early to, because it was in the 80s, the series took place in the 80s. So maybe, and today you have a lot of series and a lot of movies. There's kind of revival of the 80s as well in the series as in cinema. So maybe do you think it was too early for Freaks and Geeks? Who I think is more watched today than when it came out.
Well, I think Freaks and Geeks was on at a time when there wasn't a lot of interesting television on network television in the United States. On cable, there were shows coming on that were pretty amazing, like The Sopranos came on around that time, but networks weren't doing things that were that interesting. So we were talking about kids and showing their failures. A lot of the show is about the failures they had and how they struggled during high school, and we were trying to talk about the kind of kids that are never talked about on television. So it was, nerdy, geeky kids and potheads, and that just seemed very different. And I don't think the network supported it and believed in it. It threw them. They wanted, a show with just gorgeous people, making out by a lake, and so they didn't get what we were trying to do. And what's interesting about experiences is that because we knew we weren't going to get picked up for the second season, we just knew the whole time. We took all of our ideas that we had for 5 years and we just did the best ones right away. Because when you do a show like Girls, when you know you're going to survive, you delay things. So you might say, wow, it'd be interesting to see, Adam and Jessa date. But we can't do that yet. Let's wait a couple of years. But with Freaks and Geeks, we just did everything instantly. So it's very compressed, and it was made in a panic because we just thought, they could cancel us any day. And so we worked really hard, and we loved it. And as a result, it's almost like a diamond. Like it was a piece of coal, and the pressure of its impending demise made it a diamond. And if it had survived, it probably wouldn't have been as strong. It would have been hit or miss like every other show. So I see it more as a mini-series now.
Hi. So, sorry. I'm here. Wherever my hand.
There you are.
Okay. So my question is somewhat similar. Is there an echo? Okay. But yeah, it's kind of related to Freaks and Geeks as well, but just because I've been recently rewatching it. So I feel like comedy is a genre that really has a lot of difficulty when it comes to aging, and it ages really quickly because it's often based on references and popular culture. So what do you think it takes to kind of make comedy somewhat timeless, like in the context of Freaks and Geeks? Like just something like a concerned younger brother like swapping out a keg of like beer for non-alcoholic beer is never not going to be funny. Like, so what are kind of techniques that you think will remain kind of consistent to every generation in terms of comedy, if any?
Well, one aspect of the show that Paul Feig liked when we did it was he wanted to set it at a time before cell phones and before computers. Because he said, when people had problems, they'd have to talk to each other face to face. And that doesn't happen in the same way anymore. And we made the show back in 1999, 2000, and he was already talking about that. But he really understood that it was just interesting to see people have to deal with each other. With references, because that show was retro and was about another time period, we tried to put in funny references and timeless references. In a normal movie, I always try to reference things that won't age so quickly. but they do age, so it's difficult. I probably lean on references a little too much just because they make me laugh. But what doesn't age is just human relationships. You know, a brother-sister relationship accurately portrayed will not age. And so feelings don't age. You know, the search for acceptance doesn't age. So as long as like you care about those things, hopefully things stand the test of time. I mean, you know, I have some movies that have aged. We did The Cable Guy 20 years ago, so now I'm beginning to see, okay, well, let's see how that holds up. And the 40-Year-Old Virgin is 15 years ago, so I guess I'll slowly see if these things are just horrendous to watch or they become timeless. I don't know yet.
Okay. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Sam. You're Sam, right?
What's that?
You're Sam Fisher. I saw it like his Skype's call. There was a name on it. Anyway. In a conversation with Jerry Seinfeld, you said that Freak and Geeks was like the thing you wanted to do. And I think I'm not the only one who entered in this world, the Judd Apatow with this movie, with this mini-series. And then I enjoyed all this movie, but all about this movie is American society. Why you didn't try in time to go overseas? Why not coming to Brussels, for example, for a movie?
Yes. Well, you know, it's something that I might do. I think it would be really fun and interesting to do it. It's not just that I can't go overseas. I have such limited imagination that I can't do like a, you know, science fiction, or like you'll never see me like doing like a Harry Potter movie. I barely can write about anyone who isn't Jewish. I have like a very limited, like narrow, amount of experience that I haven't really broken out of to say, I'm going to do a movie about Eskimos in the Arctic. I never feel comfortable outside of talking about just my own vibe and my own feelings about, you know, a world that I understand. And that's probably an obstacle, and I should, you know, bust through that and take some chances, and I think it'd be really fun. I mean, there's all sorts of, you know, amazing comedy people and writers and actors and actresses from all around the world. It would be fun to find a way to collaborate and break through a bit. You know, we had a lot of fun with Russell Brand when we did Get Him to the Greek, and we work with a lot of people, you know, from other countries, like Eric Bana and Rose Byrne, and, you know, so we're very attracted to people like that. Jackie Weaver is really, really funny to deal with, and but maybe one day I'll do my road movie.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. In this era of revivals, reboots in the television industry, would you like to make a reboot of Freak and Geeks? And yes, because I was thinking that at the end of November there will be the actual final season of Gilmore Girls on Netflix. So I was wondering if it would be it could be a revival. That's sorry for my English. Would it be like a special, like the Gilmore Girls, which is 4 parts, or would it be like the 24 or Prison Break? Because I read that you weren't happy with the ends of Freak and Geeks, and now the televisions, the networks make more and more reboots and revival and so on. So would it be a good time to make a revival, or maybe the cast of Freak and Geeks several years later, like they do for Gilmore Girls?
Well, the one thing about Freaks and Geeks is that we didn't feel like, for a lot of the characters, that their lives would go well. That if you saw them decades later, it might be really tragic for a fair amount of them. And so I'm not sure we want to see that. Also, I think we lucked out with a beautiful ending to the series, and it scares me to button it with anything. And also, most of those actors, I don't think most of them would be up for it. I couldn't even get Seth and those guys to want to make a Superbad sequel, because they liked it so much they thought it might ruin it if we did a bad sequel to Superbad. Because I wanted to do Superbad in college, and everyone said no. So I gave up on that idea a long time ago. A lot of times when you see these revivals, it's decades later. They'll do like the Andy Griffith Show or Mary Tyler Moore, and most people just watch it to see if they've aged well or not. And it's rare that people do something like decades later that's as strong as the original work. I don't know if it's ever been done. We'll see how Gilmore Girls did, but even that hasn't been that many years.
One more question, thank you. I was wondering what would be like Judd Apatow directing a Veep episode.
A Veep episode?
Yes.
I got asked to direct, The Office a bunch of times, and they asked me to direct The Americans once, but I always get scared to do it, and I always think, I don't know, those shows are directed well, they clearly don't need me to do it. So I just haven't ever put myself in that position. It's weird to go to someone else's show, because so much of my process is improvisation and throwing out the script, and I feel like if I went to a show, they would be irritated by me. I don't even like directing, the shows I produce. I've never directed Girls, because I thought it was so well directed, I never felt like, let me show them how it's done. I always thought I would direct a Girls episode and it would be the worst one. So even though I was writing episodes all the time, I just never wanted to do it. But Veep has been very good. Our editors on the Pete Holmes show, Crashing, that we're working on, that'll be on next year, are all the editors of Veep.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
I have a question. I don't know if it's really important for you, but yesterday I watched a documentary about the difference between shooting a movie on a film or digitally. And I don't know if it's for you, it's important, or what do you prefer between shoot on a film or digital, sorry.
Well, we shot Trainwreck on film, and because we thought New York City would look much more beautiful and like an old Woody Allen movie. Some people say it looks exactly the same, digital and film, and it just doesn't. We did some tests side by side in the same locations, and I think film looks much better. There are certain movies that benefit from shooting digitally. It might be a look that you like. I just think it always should be an option. It would be very sad if it didn't exist for people as an option, but I prefer it. We're shooting the Pete Holmes HBO show on film because we thought all these TV shows are on video now, so it'll be kind of cool to be the only one on film. Sometimes on video it also looks like a porno, and then you'll see it on someone's TV, and most people's TVs are not set correctly. Like the settings are wrong, and so you'll watch something like Lord of the Rings or something like that, and it's so clear that it goes backwards in quality, and it just looks like an adult film. It's like an adult film with a Gollum.
I think it was when I was watching the DVD of this film, 40-year-old virgin, that the shooting was like kind of a mess narratively, like you just shot jokes, and I wonder how did you manage to just put it like because when I saw it, it was kind of a fluid narrativity, even though it wasn't on the set. And also I wanted to know how do you direct the films that I've seen one day Adam McKay on the set. He just like throws punchlines at his actors just to make them say them. I don't know if you do this kind of things, or do you just let them
do that.
Yeah?
Yeah, we do that, and I think, you know, within a scene there's always a structure, and so it might be, you know, a scene in Knocked Up where Seth Rogen makes fun of Martin Starr's beard, and you know, within that moment I can let them play and shoot like 45 insults and I only need 3. You know, so there's always moments where within a scene there's a little pod that you could play in, you know, and so even though it seems kind of crazy and sloppy, usually it's just trying to get extra material for a certain joke. There are times where we've improvised dramatic stuff. There's scenes and funny people, and This Is 40, where I just thought, you know, if I really let people talk to each other, they'll go to a more personal place, and I don't have to obsess on the words because I just want them to get to something truthful. And we do that as well. But usually we know where it is, and we know, you know, that there's a certain boundary on it. It's not just kind of crazy.
And last but not least, do you have something to tell to the audience which is going to watch the 40 years old Virgin right after we hang up?
Oh my gosh. What would I tell you before you watched it? Well, I guess, you know, the thing that is interesting about that movie is it's a lot about like fear and shame. You know, it's like a sweet person that thinks that if he has sex, he will be revealed as a freak in some way. And I feel like everybody feels that way. We feel like a fraud. We feel like, you know, that we're about to be unmasked as not worthy. And so I think one of the reasons why it works is because we all feel like that. We're all nervous. We're all hiding. We're all uncomfortable at the party. We all think we're not cool enough. And I think that's why the movie connected in a big way. That even though it sounds like a silly premise, it really is about fear.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the movie.
Thank you for your generosity. I hope to see you soon. And I guess it's another sunny day in LA, right? As
it would
usual.
be really uncomfortable if I just took all my clothes off right now. I feel like it would be really funny, but I'm just too tired to do it. But just know I thought about doing it. You know, the old, I don't know the camera is still rolling and I just take my shirt off. And it all ends with you seeing my hairy back.
Well, bye-bye, Judd. See you soon.
See you guys.